Thank you so much for your time and attention today. I want to talk to you about responding to crisis, the power of community, and the resiliency of the human spirit. I'm going to tell you part of my history because it's the foundation for what I'm going to be talking about today. It was so incredibly difficult to go through, and I haven't even really found the words to describe it all, but it's the reason I'm able to talk and connect with all of you right now. I experienced a massive loss in a short time. One of those losses was that my house was burned down in a massive forest fire about 6 years ago. And we lost everything in the fire. And what I didn't lose in the fire burned up, figuratively speaking, within the following year. But the local community stepped up in a huge way, in addition to my family, friends, and friends of friends. For example, there was a 6-year-old girl, the daughter of a friend in Florida, who set up a lemonade stand to help us out. And she donated all of her funds to my family, to me. It was so incredibly humbling. And so I would just love for you to just take a moment and understand and imagine that if a 6-year-old girl did that for you, someone you didn't even know, what that would feel like. And I would just love for you to take a moment and just feel that. So I want you to know today that community, generosity, and love change us. They change human hearts. From my personal experience, so much was being built into my life and my heart when I felt almost completely hopeless. I just didn't realize it at the time. The heart of the giver and the receiver change if we allow it. I once heard that if we don't allow people to help us and we try to stick it out on our own, we deny the person of getting the wonderful feeling of helping us because they need that feeling of helping as much as we need the help. And I want to share a concept with you. I'm sure you already know it because I know that since you're watching and listening right now, you're already a pretty smart person. But here's the thing. We really only grow when we're stretched, when we experience some adversity. When we work out, our muscles, including our hearts, they get stronger when they're stressed. Now, if you have a heart condition, please take this as a metaphor only and don't go out for a sprint after this talk as a disclaimer, but hang in there with me. Lifting weights creates micro tears in the muscle. It's only through being stressed, strained, broken down, and stretched, can you tell I'm not a huge fan of working out, and healed again, that muscles get stronger. But seriously, our inner strength works in the same way. It's only through being strained, stressed, and stretched that we grow. And that's how our faith and our spirits grow. It's how our mental and emotional strength is formed and grows, giving us greater endurance for the challenges that life throws at us at times. It's the stuff that gives us grit. I kind of love that word grit. We don't hear it very often, but it's a huge part of what helps us get through life. Relationships are strengthened and oftentimes formed in the same way. Through hardship and common experiences, trials bond people together. When people share experiences, there's a knowing, an understanding that many times don't even require words to be spoken. I'm a parent who adopted my child through the foster system. And for those who have done the same thing or who are foster parents, we understand each other, we get each other. The struggles that we face, those of our kids and the parenting challenges that we often share, it's so much of the same thing. I grew up in a strong military background, and I know that military service and hardships of war create strong bonds and loyalty, a brotherhood amongst those who serve. What we're going through right now with COVID-19 is a bond that we're experiencing if we choose it. There's so much power in having that connection as we're all experiencing the same thing for the most part. What's happening in the world now is having the same effect if we let it. It's creating bonds throughout our lives and all of society, whether we're realizing it or not. As a society, as a nation, a global community, as a whole, we're having the same experiences, the same circumstances, the same emotions, and potentially the same fears. The same things I'm uncertain of are the same things you're uncertain of, and is the same for someone in Europe or Asia. My point is, we're all human. This time and these circumstances is what I call the great equalizer. A virus doesn't care if you're rich or poor, educated or not, from one country or another. Aside from certain age and health demographics, everyone across the globe is experiencing what you and I are. What I appreciate about times of crisis when we're in them is the playing field is leveled. By that, I mean that a lot of times people are more open. Our walls come down and we're more vulnerable, authentic, and human. People who might not connect and have a conversation under more normal circumstances can make meaningful connections. For instance, I went to Walmart one day looking for a grocery item, and the whole grocery section was so depleted, but the item I was looking for was right next to an item that another family was looking for at the same time. So I heard the family say, the husband said, you can buy more ketchup, but do not buy more mustard. We have plenty of mustard. And I chuckled to myself a little bit. And I said, yeah, I've heard that you can put ketchup on anything and it makes it better. And he laughed and he responded, he says, yeah, that and ranch. If we can't find anything else to eat, we'll put ranch on our shoes and eat them. I got such a big kick out of that. Nowhere else in any time would any stranger have that conversation. And I just want everyone to know that we're all in this together. There are so many opportunities for growth and change right now. I'm growing and I'm changing and I'm learning new skills. And we as a human race are being stretched. We're having to adapt. Too often we don't change until something outside forces us to do so. It's a great time of change. We're learning new ways of doing things. And with all of that can come amazing, brilliant ideas, creativity, and ingenuity. It gets us all out of the box mentally, for better or for worse. It's uncomfortable, but we got this. So we're connecting in new ways, meeting, doing business in new ways. For one, I'm thankful that technology has come so far so that we can do this right now. It's not a necessity to meet in boardrooms anymore. And that's how we're able to meet today. And that's how I'm able to talk to you. It's truly amazing. In-person connection is so important for our mental and physical health and well-being, but it's not an option at this point, or hasn't been anyway. Some of you may have that option right now. In my area, we're getting there, but let's not forget the need for human connection moving forward. One of my favorite quotes from my mentor is, faith and fear both demand we believe in something we cannot see. We still have choices, whether or not we feel like we do. We can choose to be victims right now or ever. This time will most certainly change us, but we get to choose if it's for the better or for the worse. I urge you to lean into the uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable for us right now in so many different ways, but we still have choices, whether we see them and think we do or not. It's just a matter of perspective and flipping the script. We have a choice about what we focus on. We as people naturally head in the direction of our mental focus, or in other words, what we focus on. If we choose consciously or unconsciously to focus on fear, anxiety, and negativity, we'll feel and get more of it, and will actually affect us emotionally and physically. By what we choose to see, notice in our environment, are aware of and mindful of, our focus our attention on and dwell on, that's exactly what our brains start seeing more of. A good example is when you look at buying a new car. You don't even see or notice that car on the road until you start looking for one, and then that's all you see on the road. Remember that we have the choice to make things negative or positive right now. I want to really encourage you with that. Sometimes it takes a lot to turn that around. If you're like me, I sometimes have to tell myself, stop it, when I notice having a negative thought. That's something I've had to do a lot. Trust me, I've dealt with trauma, and at one point I was diagnosed with depression and anxiety. And I understand that battle of what it takes sometimes for some of us to turn that around. But we can use our mind and our will to be in a good place mentally and physically. What can we do? I have 8 ideas for you. If you're struggling right now with some of this stuff, for most of us, the COVID-19 has made us slow down. It certainly has for me. Others have had a hard stop regarding schedules. I certainly have. First, I want to ask you, what have you always wanted to try and do? Now I know, again, like we can't always get out of our house right now, but finally create a workout schedule and routine. If you're like me, I have this huge stack of books sitting by well, actually I have a number of them all over the place. So do you have a stack of books that have been sitting around collecting dust? Have you wanted to learn a new language? It's a great time for that. Number 2, it's also a great time to learn calming techniques if you don't have that in your current routine that supports you in that. Look up online how to learn to do diaphragmatic breathing. And what that is not breathing in your chest, it's breathing down further for extra oxygen saturation, which helps calm our brains. So as weird as it sounds, because our lives are so hectic, we hardly ever take the time to breathe, which reduces stress. So I would encourage you to learn how to do that. Set a timer for yourself about every half hour or an hour to do just calm breathing. It really helps our nervous system. And then do that until it becomes a part of what you do all the time. Number 3 is finding guided meditations. You can easily incorporate it into your routine as well. It's with regular practice, it's really incredible what it does for our brains, our bodies, our emotions, and our mental outlook. The 4th one is our brains scan our environment for what we direct it to look for. It's like a heat-seeking missile. Find positive, uplifting information to feed your mind. If you do that enough, you actually switch from seeing more negativity and having fearful or anxious thoughts to being more positive. Also on that note, limit your exposure to news and the media. And I understand it's so important for us to know what's going on. But if you ruminate on that, it's gonna just take you down and reduce your positivity. So just be aware of that. The 5th one is write down 10 things every day that you're grateful for and try to really feel it right in your heart. Now, I'm not a doctor, you probably already know that, but I've read a ton of research and of the benefits that gratitude has for our brains, our hearts, and our bodies. As a kid in church, I would sing this hymn, Count Your Blessings, and some of you may know it. I used to think that was kind of cute and trite, and maybe a good thought, idea, something that could come in handy. But I had no idea how important, impactful, and really ultimately essential it actually is, and how creating the habit of gratitude and incorporating it into our daily routine affects us neurologically and really our entire spirits and the essence of who we truly are. And it gives us a sense and feeling of joy in our daily lives. The 6th one is help others. A short phrase I really appreciate from one of my favorite communicators is move toward the mess. It's so important for us to meet one another where we're at. Some people are more fearful or anxious than others. I've definitely been there. For those of us who are less so, we need to encourage others who are struggling. Number 7, please be honest with yourself and others about how you're feeling. I have lost a family member to mental health. And if you're having a hard time, please let someone know about it. Community and connection are vital for us to maintain positive, healthy perspective. Number 8, the last one, don't isolate. We don't have to be alone or feel isolated, even though we can't really be with people right now. Call your friends, connect over Zoom or FaceTime. Call the elderly people in your life to see how they're doing. Offer them help or to run an errand for them. Let them know you're available to support them. There are organizations for reaching out. So if you feel like you have the time and the emotional capacity, reach out or allow someone to help you in that way as well. Let's remember right now to have compassion and empathy for others. Let's understand that we're all doing our best in these unprecedented circumstances. Every person we encounter right now is going through the same thing we are, or might even be in a more challenging situation. So we need to be mindful of that. Be patient with others, including those that drive like jerks or who don't act nicely towards you. A lot of times we react in not as nice ways when we're under stress. So I want to encourage you and challenge you today to take stock. There are incredibly significant times in history and in our lives, and this is one of them. Don't let it go to waste. I would highly encourage you to write your thoughts and answers to these questions I'm going to ask you down and have the courage to take action on it. The first question is, how is my mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being? Number 2, are my relationships healthy, supportive, life-giving, and positive? And number 3, if not, what changes do I want and need to make? So in closing, I hope this has been valuable to you. Thank you for being here. I'll leave you with a few of my favorite words that I do my best to live by. Those are faith, hope, and love. The greatest of these is love. If you would like to get in touch with me, my email address is heatherca80@gmail.com. Thank you again so much for being here.